Hello everybody and welcome back to World of Tanks, and today I have for you, there's not really any other way of putting this, in my opinion, the most overpowered tank in the game. And probably a tank that you've never really ever seen in battle, with the exception of maybe the last couple of days. For example, there's two of them in this battle, but I did just check quickly on What Life, and apparently there's only 2,500 of these on the server, which also makes this my rarest tank in the game that I currently own, and that is the SU-76I. This thing was sold by Wargaming for about an hour, and then they took it off sale because it was too overpowered, and then it has recently come back, I believe, in the black market. And yeah, it was one of, on the last day of the black market this year, it was one of the ones in the, was it the warehouse or whatever the hell it was called, and it was one of those tanks that you could get. And for me, the only real two tanks I wanted from that was either this or the Type 59 Gold. And I went for this because at the end of the day, I have a Type 59. And yes, the Type 59 Gold is all cool and that, but I have a Type 59. So I wanted a different tank. I wanted something that was completely different, that I didn't have. And that's this thing. And I'm so happy I got it because, oh my God, it's broken. Like, it is insanely broken. For those of you who don't know, this is a tier 3 tank. It is a Russian tank destroyer. It's got a 76mm gun. It's not particularly fast, as you've just seen. Like, the gun is really good. It's got really good aim time, really good accuracy, and everything like that. No, not really good accuracy, really good aim time and decent DPM. It's 1900 DPM at tier 3 with my setup, which is absolutely mad. But, more to the point, it's practically an E25. In my setup, I've got a camo net, I've got binos, I've got, you know, a decent crew in it. I've got 25% camo rating whilst firing. Which means if someone has 400 meters view range, when I fire, they're not going to spot me till I'm within 300 meters. And bearing in mind that we're at tier 3 here, so like the average view range is like 350 meters, which means most people aren't spotting me whilst I'm firing out in the open. This isn't even in a bush, just out in the open, until about 275 meters. And it's got an absolutely lethal gun. And it's just ridiculous, because the E25, yes, it's the E25 is the E25. The E25 is at tier 7. Everything at tier 7, you know, is starting to get up to half decent view range. This at tier 3, 25% camo rating whilst firing, with this gun, is just mad. It is literally like an E25. The only thing that is a downside to the tank, as you're going to see in a minute, is the mobility. The mobility is really not great, as you can kind of see here. It's really not good. I'm on Mannheim line, by the way. I haven't mentioned that. I've come down to the south, and look, watch this. Look, 300 meters. This guy's 300 meters from me, getting closer. 270 meters. I'm firing at him from 270 meters, and I finally get spotted. The first shot, I didn't get spotted. It was only the second shot, and I'm not 100% sure if that A32 was even the guy who spotted me. I think it might have been the SU-76I. Another slight downside to this tank is the fact that it hasn't got very good view range. As you can see, my view range is really on the low side, and that's, well, is not with binos right now, but with binos, it's still not amazing. This thing has kind of been indirectly nerfed by, like, I don't know if it was Equipment 2.0 or it was the patch before that, where they took tier 3 tanks down from not being able to have 3 pieces of equipment to 2 pieces of equipment. And I think that's a good thing, because tanks like this, I would really, from a purely selfish point of view of I want to be as OP as possible, this thing with 3 pieces of equipment, at the minute I've got camo net and binos. I think they're pretty much necessary, because you could set this thing up for fully camo, so low noise exhaust and camo net, or you could set it up purely for spotting and go for optics and binos. And that's kind of a compromise that you have to do. So I've then gone for a compromise straight down the middle of camo net and binos. But if you had 3 pieces of equipment, you could go, right, well, I'm either going to be decent at camo or decent at spotting, but then really good at the other one, rather than just decent at both, as I am now. So, yeah, I'm just kind of thankful that, well, for the game's sake, that this thing can no longer fit 3 pieces of equipment on. Again, you're kind of seeing here, it's just, I'm being very indecisive this game, because its mobility isn't great. If I was in an E25, I could have stayed up here and just waited, and just waited, and then at the last minute gone, right, I'm out, see you later, zipped off, because the E25 is mad fast. Whereas this thing, you have to kind of be like, right, well, you know, I need to give myself time. You've got to predict what's going to be happening with the game. I'm really annoyed here that those first 2 shots missed. Like I said, the accuracy is not great. He bounces one of the 2 shots. And that's something that I haven't actually mentioned about this tank. Its armor on the upper superstructure, so this bit here, is 60mm thick, which doesn't sound like a lot. But at tier 3, you're starting to get a lot of tanks that, when they're firing standard rounds, are really struggling to go through. The penetration of this is 86 on the standard and 102 on the premium. The HE is not too bad, 38mm as well, which is why I take quite a lot. But also this tank carries a ridiculous amount of ammunition. I'm pretty sure all tier 3 tanks these days carry a ridiculous amount of ammunition. And this is kind of what I'm saying. I kind of get, well, I don't get caught here. I get very lucky that the SU decides to go this way and not come straight up with me. Because if he'd have just driven straight across here and come straight towards me, I would right now be dead. And it's just, again, this is the mobility. This is the one thing that lets it down. And again, if I had that option to fit the 3rd piece of equipment, I would possibly even go for a turbocharger if this thing can fit it. I honestly can't remember off the top of my head. But I would have that option to maybe fit a turbocharger or something to help the mobility slightly, because it's not amazing. But it's just, honestly, this tank is broken. Yes, granted, I've only played 3 games in the tank. I've aced it every single game I've played it. And I average in it 1500 damage. That's at tier 3. 1500 average is what a lot of players average. Like, an average player will probably average, I've said average too many times. An average player will probably average 1600 damage, maybe tier 7 or tier 8. This is tier 3. And I can average 1500 in this. I'm not saying you could literally just pick this tank up and go, right, well, I'm going to do all of the damage in it. And, yep, it's like, you still have to think things through. Like I said, you need to know when to fall back, know what positions are good and stuff like that. But when you manage that, oh, it's so good. It's just, it's too good. It's the most overpowered thing in the game, and the reason I call it the most overpowered, and people are going to be like, well, what about the chieftain, what about this, what about that, what about this, what about that? It's a tier 3, so most of the people fighting against you can't do a lot. And I'd like to point out, I'm playing this tank a bit at the minute because I've only just got it, and it's one of my rarest tanks, blah, 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 but I probably won't play this tank much. This will probably be one of those tanks that I play once every now and again to cheer myself up if I'm having a really bad day on tanks. Or, like, you know, someone requests it on stream. I'm not going to play it too much because it's just so broken. Now, actually, back to the game a little bit. You see me here. We're literally backed into a corner. I'm literally as close to the corner as I possibly can be. And I'm asking this FCM if he has binos. He says yes, because then I know that he's going to spot people if they come this way. The only issue is, obviously, they've still got an SU-76I. They've also got an SU-76 GFT, the Chinese tier 4 tank destroyer, and as well an A32. And I would think, I don't know this, but I would think they're all pretty decent players. I know the SU-76I is at least a half decent player, because I'm pretty sure, and don't quote me on this because I might be wrong, but I was pretty sure that TFUK2, I think TFUK are quite a good clan, so I think TFUK2 is probably at least a half decent player. It's just an educated guess, so I honestly don't really know. I'm trying to position myself here so that I've got as many positions where I can see as many avenues of attack as possible whilst using my binos, but at the same time whilst covering myself in as best bushes as possible. The FCM says they might flank. I say I should be able to spot it. He says, don't. I'm like, yeah, no, it's just, you know, passive spotting it. And unfortunately, I do not believe I was spotted. I think that was just a complete, like, blind fire at the end of the game. Their SU-76I as well over there. I think they were too... Oh, I remember, actually. I looked this guy's stats up on stream, and he had something like 4,000 games in this tank. So, yeah. And he had really, like, 8,000 games in another tier 4 and stuff like that. So, yeah, these were two half-decent players, I think. Well, I don't know about half-decent, but knew how to play his tank. And the SU-76I, I'm pretty sure, was half-decent. I was really going to struggle to win this SU-76I versus SU-76I. But any other tanks in the game... And you got to remember as well, this was a tier 4 matchup. This is the worst matchup this tank could possibly have. This thing can see tier 2s. Like, that's absolutely mad. It's just... But yeah. Right. Sorry that the end was a bit crap, guys, but again, it was just... I wanted to show you this because... Well, all 3 games I've had was an ace. One was I literally sat in a position for pretty much 50... Oh, it's a draw. So I sat... It was on mines. I lost all of my health because someone got spotted behind me. And I lost all my health, which meant I couldn't push in at the end of the game. Which meant we actually drew. So I didn't really want to show you that because that was kind of a boring game. And then this one, the beginning was quite fun. Again, it was a very good demonstration of how you can just fire just without being spotted. I didn't get spotted until I took that first damage. It's just mad. And then unfortunately at the end, I'm pretty sure that was a blind fire. Like, to be fair, this is an incredibly obvious place to sit, but there wasn't really anywhere else I could sit. So I think it was a blind fire. But anyway, let's go take a very quick look at the post-game stats. So, there we go, guys. That was 1,980 damage. We hit a couple of blind shots, I think. We hit that Stug blind a couple of times. We hit the M2 blind at the start as well. There's not a lot I could say. Like I say, I've played 3 games in this thing. I've aced it 3 times. I averaged 1,500 damage. Like, I'm sure at some point well, I definitely will have a bad game. I think actually my win rate in this thing is 33%. Because my first game was a draw. This one was a loss, and my other one was a win. And this was obviously a loss because, you know, this guy did 2.5k. Yes, he's in a tier 4 tank destroyer. They had an SU-76I as well. And it's just an absolutely mad tank. Like, 532, hit 25, pen 19. The gun is decent, but it's just that... It's the same as the E25. It's the camo rating whilst firing. It's insane. But anyway, thank you all so much for watching, guys. I do really appreciate it. If you are new to the channel, make sure you consider subscribing. Make sure as well, if you are already subscribed, you have notifications turned on so you know when I upload. Let me know what you think, whether you think I'm right and you think this is the most overpowered tank in the game. If not, let me know which tank you think is and what is the rarest tank you own in the garage. I'm interested to see... what people's views are on that. If you want to have a look, this is just something I use just as a rough estimation. Just go on to Tanks.gg, go EU server statistics, and then order backwards by players, and it kind of gives you a rough idea what the rarest tanks are. So there you go, there's the SU-76I. Nearly 3k players, a 32 recently. That used to be on like 2k. And again, this is another reason why I got this over the Type 59 Gold, because 7,000 people now have the Type 59 Gold, whereas... The SU-76I and the Type 59 Gold were pretty much the same on about 2,500 players a couple of days ago. So that's one of the reasons I got it. But anyway, like I say, thank you so much for watching, guys. Make sure you like, subscribe, notifications, and I'll see you next time.